Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dan Hartley, your host to AmeriVoice. Thanks for tuning in. Today is Friday the 13th, and we are quickly leaving the winter months, I guess, down here in Florida. So it's been a little warm last couple of days. Been great, actually. No complaints here, although I do enjoy the cold as well. This morning, what I'd like to talk about is setting healthy boundaries. We've all done that at some point in time in our lives where we sort of weed certain people out of our lives that we don't want there, that don't need to be there. Maybe they're not good for us. At any rate, setting healthy boundaries is not bad. When you learn to recognize that there are people in your life that just aren't good for you, that don't bring out the best in you, and they don't have your best interest, it's best really just to set a healthy boundary. And when I say healthy boundary, what do I mean? I mean basically saying, okay, you may be my brother, my sister, my aunt, my mother, my dad, whatever, but I'm going to have to limit your access to me. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I hear a lot of times people. I have a friend of mine, and his mom was very much the narcissist, much like mine, and he heard the same things I heard growing up, and I think it's just a Southern thing. But when it comes to family, a lot of times we like to sweep things under the rug. We don't really like to talk about it much, and so he would always hear, "Well, that's your mom," and I disagree. I think we give um, a free pass to those people that are our family members because, of their, they're standing in the family. Maybe they're an aunt or an uncle or they're someone older. And in the South, we're taught to respect our elders, and there's nothing wrong with respecting someone and still setting a healthy boundary. Well, he would hear that all the time, and he would feel ashamed because he didn't want his mom in his life because she was a horrible person. And so, he and I had a conversation one time, and I told him, I said, look, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you setting a healthy boundary. Well, he learned to do that, and probably not so much with my counsel. He's a pretty smart guy, but he figured it out himself. But, I hear other people say, well, that's your mama, that's your brother, that's your sister, as if whatever they're doing to you is okay, and that's not okay. There are certain people in your life that, if they bring out the best in you, then they should be around you. You should allow them access to your life and to your inner circle. And there's nothing wrong with being proactive and saying, you know what, you're not good for my life, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to limit your access to me, or maybe just completely eliminate it. There are some people that I've had to literally eliminate their presence in my life. And it's because I know time and time and time again, they have hurt me. They have done things that were devious. They have just, they're not good for me. And it's not so much about, what people can do for me or serve me. It's not about that at all. It's about, do you bring something to my life that makes it better? I would hope that I would be the same way to other people, that if I bring something to their life, that makes them happy, that makes them, appreciate me being around, then it would be okay for them to let me into their life. There's some people that, there's family members that I have right now that I don't have, much of a relationship with, and we don't, it's not so much that we don't like each other. It's just simply that we don't have time to spend with our family members like we'd like to. And, we prioritize the things in our life. And so, but I'm talking about specifically those people that hurt us. And these are usually narcissists. And if you're familiar with that term, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar with that term, let me help you understand the narcissist. The narcissist loves to be the center of attention at any cost. Okay. They need constant validation all the time. I had a boss who was a narcissist, and she needed validation 24/7, and it was my responsibility to go out and gather that feed, what they call the supply. For narcissists, they get their supply from people who admire them, or tell them that they're doing a great job, or basically just validate them, and they love people to paw all over them, and so it was exhausting to try and go out and get supply. My friend calls it the hungry bear syndrome, where you feed the bear, and as long as you're feeding the bear's happy. But once you stop feeding the bear, then the bear eats you. And that's the way it is with narcissists. Until and as long as you're giving them what they want, as long as you're feeding them their supply, and you're okay, you're happy, and they'll treat you like crap no matter what. They're not going to reward you at all. They like to dangle a carrot in front of you, give you hope for something else, or if you do this, then maybe we can do this, or maybe we can do that. It's always a way to keep you in the game, because it's a game for them. They don't care about anyone. A narcissist does not have the ability to show empathy. Okay, most of us feel empathy if we ride by a wreck on the interstate. We might say, "Oh Lord, help those people." We might have a thought of, "Oh my gosh, what it must be like to be in that position right now," or what is their family thinking. A narcissist will drive by and complain because there's traffic. Narcissists have their flying monkeys in their life too. These are the people that do their bidding for them. They're the ones that will come to you and say, "Well, that's your mama. You shouldn't talk to her like that," or she's your mama. No matter what, she's your mama, and or she's your whatever. And they're the ones that go out and do the bidding for the narcissist, because a narcissist is the queen on the throne or the king on the throne. You will serve them in any capacity that they feel like you need to serve them in, and you will do what they want you to do. If you don't, there will be repercussions. And if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, God help you. I can tell you from experience, I was 40 years with a narcissist, and I can tell you right now, they will never, ever change, ever. They're always the victim. You're always wrong. They're always right. They will never, ever apologize. I can tell you in 40 years, I don't think my ex-wife ever apologized to me, not once, because they don't believe they're wrong. They truly do not believe they're wrong. They believe their own press. Okay. And so narcissists are the ones who, in my opinion, honest to God, I think they should have to wear a t-shirt that says, "I'm a narcissist, stay away," because what they do is they'll find you and they'll do what's called love bombing. Okay. And with my former boss, she love bombed me. When she came and poached me, and she love bombed me. She gave me, praise and validation, and just showered me with compliments, and I was just the best thing since sliced bread. I got a raise when nobody else got one. I got a bonus when nobody got one. It was, and I was constantly being told I was great and wonderful and everything, and she was pulling me in, is what she was doing. I didn't realize that. I was too blinded by, being told I was doing a great job, because I am the performer. And that's another thing. Narcissists look for the performers, because the performers need the validation from someone as well. We're just not willing to sacrifice our empathy and sympathy for it. So narcissists will typically find people who need the validation, and they will go after them, and then they will bring them in. And once they bring you in, and once they've got you into their clutches, and you're basically, not really stuck, but you're there, then their true colors start to show. If you outshine a narcissist, they will become very angry, and they're afraid that you're going to step into their limelight, or take away some of their limelight, or some of their praise, or their adoration, or people admiring them. They will absolutely eviscerate you if that happens. And so with family members, it's a little different, because family's there. For a boss, I can just say, "C'est la vie, I'm done, I'm out of here," or you can just say, I'm going to choose not to do these certain things because I like my job. Well, I love my job. I love what I did. I enjoyed what I did, and I was good at what I did, but it wasn't worth that. And so with family, it's different. Family, you're going to see them at family reunions. You're going to see them at gatherings. You're going to see them at funerals. You're going to see that person, and it's always going to be tough for you not to want to talk to them, because if you're a decent person, especially if you're, what's called an empath. People that are empaths are very connected to other people's feelings, which means basically you can sometimes walk in a room and sense whatever's going on in the room. You can pick it up. It's almost like a subcellular thing. And so for empaths, we are the target. Imagine, if you will, the Serengeti in Africa, okay, and the lionesses are hunting, and they found the wildebeest, and there's a pack of them, there's a herd of them, and they're looking through the wildebeest, and they're looking for the weakest one among them, usually the babies, or maybe a wildebeest that's been injured and is having difficulty moving around. They're going to go after that. They're going to automatically go after that one, and they'll set their sights on them, and they'll go after them, and they'll kill them. That's the way it is with a narcissist and an empath. When a narcissist notices an empath, they will absolutely go after you like a lioness on the Serengeti. And once they get a hold of you, that's it. That's it. They've got you. That's it. You're done. And we can't help who we are. Narcissist, I believe, I want to say they can't help the way they are, because it's a behavioral thing. It's a learned behavior. I don't think you're born a narcissist. I think that this is something that you are taught. We used to call them sociopaths. And sociopaths, we'd say, well, that person's a sociopath, because they have no feelings, they have no empathy. A lot of serial killers are sociopaths. Well, now we say, they're more or less a narcissist, or maybe they're borderline, which is another a whole podcast, borderline. My mother was a narcissist. She was also borderline, and she was what do you call it? Geez. Bipolar. Sorry, she's bipolar. So she had a myriad of problems that manifested behaviorally, and we gave her excuses because back in the 70s, we just kind of excused that kind of behavior and laughed about it, and we called it Lynn fits. But the truth of the matter was she was mentally ill. She'd been in and out of mental institutions all of her life. She tried to kill herself, I think, 3 or 4 times. She was, she had a very addictive personality. People that are narcissists, I don't think they can help it. I think that they're so entrenched in their own mental illness that they can't see beyond it. It's like trying to reason with someone who is oh man, I'm having difficulty this morning. I hadn't had my coffee yet. Golly, I'll think of it here tomorrow sometime. But anyway, dealing with someone who believes that they're right, you're never going to convince them that they're wrong, ever. And they'll always play the victim. One of the things you can do, people say, well, how can I know if someone's a narcissist? Well, I'll tell you. There are actually corporations that hire professional interviewers to interview people for their positions of authority, because when corporations hire people, they're paying them $400,000 or $500,000 a year, and they have access to the jets, and they have all the nice things, and they expect that these people are going to be good people and a good fit for the company. And so I read a story once about an interviewer who, when they would interview a client, a possible client or not client, but a possible employee, they would actually yawn in front of them. And so that would trigger that empathetic response of the one who's being interviewed. And if they didn't yawn back, then they knew right away that they had no empathy, and they would absolutely not hire them. And I thought that was pretty neat. That's one of the ways you can kind of test somebody if they're a narcissist. It doesn't always work, but you can try that. Another thing too is you can correct them in a nice way. You can give them what's called corrective criticism, or constructive criticism, and they will absolutely lose their minds. They cannot be told anything that they did or they thought, any idea that they had, was wrong or in error in any way at all, because they will absolutely lose it. They cannot do that. And so if you do that with someone and they just, then they attack you, it's you could pretty much bank on the fact that they're probably a narcissist. And I can just tell you from experience, they will not change. They will get worse. They will promise you the moon and the stars when they're going to lose you. Okay, if they've gotten to the point to where they're done with you and they discard you like a dirty napkin, then they don't care. You can walk out and they don't care. They'll say "C'est la vie," good. I'm glad you're gone. But if they still want you, if you give them the an indication that you might be leaving them, especially if it's a relationship, they will promise you the moon and the stars. I'll get counseling, I'll get better, I'm going to get on medication, all these things. They're going to tell you everything that they think you want to hear, so you'll stay in the relationship, because they need you, because you feed them. And so narcissists, you can do the yawning thing, you can do the corrective thing. If you know someone who's never apologized, who just who won't apologize, that is probably a narcissist, because they will never ever see the error of their own ways. They will always say, well, if I was wrong, I'm wrong because you were wrong. They'll never ever 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 admit that they're wrong. They'll always play the victim, because being the victim helps them to be, again, in the limelight, and they want people to feel sorry for them, and they want people to always either feel sorry for them or build them up. That's what a narcissist wants. And they usually seek out positions where they're going to be in the limelight. They're going to be seen by a lot of people. Politicians, a lot of politicians are narcissists. A lot of pastors and preachers are narcissists. A lot of your movie star actors are narcissists. There are people, who seek out authority, because they know if they're an authority, then they can feed their own narcissism, and they're always right. Nobody's going to come against them because everybody works for them. So it's a situation whereby when you're dealing with a narcissist, especially if it's a family member, let me just go ahead and tell you, it is okay to set a healthy boundary. It is okay to say, you know what, I can't be around that person anymore. And if people make you feel badly for them, chances are they themselves are probably working for the narcissist. Maybe they don't know it, but they're working for the narcissist. The narcissist will employ as many people as they can to defend their actions, so they always feel like they're superior than everyone else. And if anyone tries to step out of line, then they'll send their flying monkeys to do their bidding for them. You'll probably rarely hear from the narcissist, because they feel like they have to send people out to do their bidding, because they're above talking to anyone below them. And if they do, then you need to be thankful that they're actually giving you their time. Now, a lot of you right now are probably saying, I absolutely understand what you're saying. I know people that are like this. I've got family members who act like this way. I know exactly what you're saying. And if you're saying to yourself, I have a family member, I have a friend, or I have a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever, I can just tell you from experience right now, let them go. Let them go. Walk away. Walk away right now, but while you have your sanity. For those of you who have been in a relationship where you just realize that this person is a narcissist, or maybe it's just a family member, and you feel badly, then they've done exactly what they're supposed to do. They make you feel badly, not them, because they're not going to feel badly ever. They'll make you feel badly. You're the one that feels badly about it, because now you're missing the relationship. But ask yourself, did you really get anything from that relationship? I look back on some of the relationships I had with just friends, like friends that were, my buddies growing up. And I had one in particular that just stands out, and I'm like, oh my God, he was such a narcissist, and he was such a horrible person, but yet I found myself drawn to him, because the narcissist will use that persuasive behavior that they have, to make you feel like you're missing out if you're not with them. That you're just lucky to be around them. And I had such low self-esteem that I believed that. And so again, they target those types of people. So it's a good thing to set boundaries, to set healthy boundaries for your own mental health. And then when people come around you and they say something to you about it, just tell them, it's none of their business. Or you can just simply say, look, they're not good for me. They don't bring out the very best in me, and or they're abusive, or they, whatever. Just be honest enough to say it. A lot of times family members don't really want to hear that. But if they're not, if they're not bringing joy and happiness to your life, then get rid of them. It's not worth it, because life is short. I know I'll be 60 years old this year, and time has flown by. And I realize, there was so much of my life where I just allowed narcissists to walk all over me, because I felt like, I was the bad person if I excised them from my life, or set a healthy boundary. It wasn't until I was, old enough really to realize that, you know, they're not going to change, and that was the thing I realized about my ex-wife as well. She just was never going to change. I had 40 years to look back on, and I never saw a change there. And so, what's that old adage? doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is insanity. So I knew nothing was going to change. So I had to make a call. And it's tough, and I'm not going to tell you that it's easy to walk away from someone, especially family members, or if it's a relationship where you've been bonded with this person. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult, and you're going to have, moments of doubt where you want to run back to that person because you're used to that. Think about the woman. I think I read a statistic where it takes a woman 8 times to leave her abusive husband before she'll actually leave him. And a lot of that, there's lots of factors to that. There's financial factors, there's emotional factors, there's children that are part of it. So, but it takes 8 times for her to leave and not come back. And so, when you're in an abusive relationship, it's easy to discount your feelings because you'll say, well, it's not that big of a deal, or it's not that bad, or at least this, or at least that. Um, and you find yourself making excuses. There'll come a time when you'll get tired of making excuses. You can't force someone to leave. I remember someone I was talking to years ago in nursing who was in an abusive relationship, and I worked with her, and I kept telling her, you need to leave this guy. He's not good for you. And she's like, I know, but this and that, and at least he doesn't, at least he works, and at least, and I said, okay, one day you're going to get tired of it. And sure enough, one day she got tired of it. He almost killed her. So sometimes it just takes a catalyst event to do that. But I want to tell you today that you're okay, you're fine to do this. No matter what your family says, no matter what your friends say, no matter what, you're fine to do this. Take that step and find some good support around you, and find someone who will support your decision and do it, and just make that decision and walk away. It might mean that you walk away from a long relationship. I lost a lot in my divorce. It cost me a lot of money. It cost me a lot of emotional time. It was the worst 2 years of my life, but I did it. And there were times when I thought, maybe I'll just change my mind and just stay and be miserable. But things won't change. They will not change. The narcissist will never ever change, and you will go right back to what you hated, and what you wake up in the middle of the night with tears or chills or whatever, thinking, what the heck have I done? It'll come back again and again and again and again and again. And sometimes, even in marriage, and I know a lot of people say, well, for better or worse, you made a promise, well, your mental health is important as well. And so it's a lot of things we didn't really talk about, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years ago. Mental health. A lot of people have gone through mental health, crisis just because of the partner that they're with, because they're not good for them. So I just want to encourage you today, if you're listening and you can identify with this, absolutely walk away. Find you a support group, find you a support friend, walk away. Walk away. You might lose a lot, it might cost you a lot of money, but just walk away because it's best in the end. So hope this helped everybody. And until next time, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine down upon you and give you peace.